Welcome to our retail committee for August. Without further ado, we have City of Mesa in with us today to talk about forestry. So Stephen and Addison and Jake Simon, it's all you.
All right, Trish, thank you. We are thrilled to present during this August meeting of the Mesa Chamber of Commerce Retail Committee. Thank you everyone for attending and taking time out of your busy schedule. Small businesses are the heart of our community, and your dedication and hard work contribute immensely to our local economy and quality of life. Thank you for choosing to invest in Mesa. And I want to acknowledge and thank all of our tree care professionals and industry partners. Hope some are in the attendance today, or maybe they'll get the after committee meeting video link. But without tree care professionals and all other professional tree workers, our urban forest would suffer greatly. Their expertise and leadership is crucial for growing a greener and healthier urban forest. So today we're focusing on Mesa's urban forest. We will share about the progress of the Trees Are Cool initiative. We'll invite you to participate. We'll equip you with the knowledge to care for the trees on your properties or homes, and share how trees help you increase your revenue and save you money. My name is Stephen Addison. I'm the Urban Forest Program Manager for the City of Mesa. I've got my MPA from the U of A, bear down if anyone's out there. I've worked in municipal forestry in Arizona for 4 years, and I'm a practicing arborist. What does an urban forest program manager do? Just like city departments that maintain vital infrastructure like bridges and roads, I'm here to ensure our urban forest is considered vital infrastructure and thrives. Healthy trees maximize the benefits we all enjoy, from cleaner air to cooler temperatures. Joining me today is Jake Simon from American Forests. Jake.
Thanks, Stephen, and great to see everyone. And again, thank you so much, Trish, for inviting us to come talk with everyone. My name's Jake Simon. I am an ISA arborist going on 9 years now. I've been in the industry almost 20. And I work for a company called American Forests. We're the oldest nationwide nonprofit focused on conservation. And so I work across the Southwest, but I live here in Maricopa County, so it's the main focus of a lot of my work. And so I'm really excited to speak with you all today and help you learn a little bit about what the urban forest is and how it can be beneficial to your businesses.
Thanks, Jake. If you have any questions during the presentation, please drop them in the chat. We will try to respond during the presentation or save your questions for the end. We anticipate the presentation to run about 20-30 minutes. Before we start, we would like to hear from you. So if everyone can pull up their chat. In the chat, could you please answer yes or no? Have you heard about the City of Mesa Trees Are Cool initiative beyond today? Oh my gosh, seeing a lot of no's. Don't tell my boss, the mayor. In the chat, can you please answer yes or no? Do you have any trees at your property, business, or home? Seen a lot of yeses for that. And then in the chat, this short answer, have you ever, what like good or bad tree issues have you encountered at your property? Storm damage, broken tree branches. Yeah. We'll talk a little bit about those. We're not going to dive too much into the specific maintenance, but we are here. This is an introductory meeting. Feel free to follow up with us afterwards. And we're here to really get our urban forest to thrive. But first, a quick shout out to our climate action plan. In 2021, Mesa Mayor Giles and Council adopted Mesa's Climate Action Plan, or MCAP. We created the MCAP as our commitment to proactively and responsibly protect and conserve Mesa's environment and natural resources. We set forth ambitious, community-focused goals that will contribute to the overall climate impact for Mesa. The Climate Action Plan focuses on 6 areas: as shown on this slide, to ensure that together we are working toward a healthy, climate-ready community. Trees, believe it or not, fall under all of those focus areas. Next slide, Jake. To ensure the climate action plan's success, the plan was developed with public input. One of the most consistent themes that emerged from participating Mesa residents was the desire for a plan to increase shade and tree cover throughout the city. The question asked on this slide, a little hard to see up top there. What city initiatives do you think would provide the most benefits? That tall blue line, number one, was a resilient water supply. Number two, the green line, why we're here today, is a tree and shade plan. Number three, the light blue line, is an increase in renewable energy infrastructure. Next slide, Jake. This was another question posed to residents during the MCAP engagement period. Which urban heat mitigation action do you support? Planting trees was the most popular action. So our residents, we hear you. Next slide, please. In direct response to this valuable feedback, Mayor and Council launched the innovative Trees Are Cool initiative in 2023. This ambitious initiative empowers all of us to plant 1 million trees by 2050. As Mayor Giles himself emphasizes, planting a tree is a powerful way to make a real difference. Trees not only beautify neighborhoods, parks, and shared spaces, they also play a critical role in providing shade, filtering greenhouse gas emissions, and helping to cool our entire community.
Hey, can I pause real quick?
Yes.
Willie just joined our group, and can you explain to him how to see the screen?
Yeah, welcome, Willie. Up top, if you hover your mouse at the top of your screen, you'll see a green and black bar. You go to the view options, click that, and you'll see Jake Simon as a shared screen, and you'll be able to join us.
I got it. Thank you.
Yeah, of course, William. So yeah, Trees Are Cool initiative helps each of your businesses too. Jake actually mentioned to this, and I didn't even think about it. This initiative has gained national recognition. It invests tree infrastructure into our communities and cools our businesses and homes, extending patio seasons, outdoor shopping seasons, and just making our community more inviting to everyone. Next slide, Jake. So to recap, our residents love trees. They are participating in the initiative. This is a snapshot of the Record Your Tree map of Mesa's progress to date for the Million Tree Initiative. This photo was taken last Friday. Since government only manages approximately 8 to 20% of land in the municipality, we need your help. Private entities or homeowners and business owners manage the rest. That ratio is represented in those numbers below the map. And to put things in perspective, Mesa has a population of approximately 500,000 residents. If everyone planted 2 trees, we would achieve the Mayor and Council's goal much sooner. Next slide, Jake. Okay, you've heard a little background on how the tree initiative started. I'd like to dive a bit deeper into the concept of urban forestry. First, what is urban forestry? The U.S. Department of Agriculture defines an urban forest as a collection of trees and greenery within the boundaries of a city, town, or suburb. So this includes trees in parks, streets, and on private property. I'd like to use the photos to echo what is urban forestry. These photos depict 2 neighborhoods within the city of Mesa. Fuller Ranch, located at the intersection of South Gilbert Road and East Pueblo Ave, and Summer Place Green, situated at the intersection of East Southern Ave and Gilbert Road. You'll see a lot more green in here. These highlighted green are public trees that we manage on both the maps. At the neighborhood level, we see trees in front of houses, streets and roads, and at businesses. All those trees together provide our canopy cover, or the shade we walk under and park under during a hot summer day. Fuller Ranch neighborhood has 9% canopy cover, and Summer Place Green has a 20% canopy cover. We at the city would like to encourage everyone to aim for a 15% tree canopy cover. That is the recommended tree canopy cover for a desert city and provides us with numerous benefits. Jake from American Forest will dive deeper into canopy cover and benefits very shortly. And we at the city will be focusing the majority of our tree planting efforts in neighborhoods below 15% tree canopy cover. So what does that look like at the individual level? Next slide, Jake. This image shows the existing tree canopy cover at a commercial space in Mesa. The yellow dots are existing trees, and that is a 7% canopy cover for that parcel. So all the yellow dots, add that up, and that gives us a 7% canopy cover. Next slide, Jake. But we can do better. We deserve to have nice landscapes, even in parking lots. Same location, the green dots are 100 additional trees that can be added in existing conditions to reach a 13% canopy cover. To reach 15%, we would need to remove asphalt. So now that we understand what 15% canopy cover looks like, Jake is going to take us a bit deeper. Jake?
Thank you, Stephen. So, as Stephen said, the data is clear that residents love trees. So caring for your existing trees and planting new ones is a great way to attract customers. Also, as Stephen said, 15% coverage is the minimum you should be aiming for. It can be higher if you can support that, but really 15% is what you should be shooting for. But really, you might be wondering, how the heck do I figure out what my tree canopy percentage is on my property? Without having Stephen or myself there to do that kind of work for you. You have the benefit of using American Forest's tools. We have a totally free tool called the Tree Equity Score Analyzer for Maricopa County. You can find it at treeequityscore.org, or you can follow that QR code there. But using it, you can easily search for your property address, and then you immediately know how much current tree canopy percentage there is, as well as how much tree canopy your property could support based on plantable space, like Stephen said, without tearing up asphalt. 15% is what the Forest Service considers ideal for a desert biome, but you can certainly go higher if your property and your resources allow it. Some of the screenshots there are from the American Forest Tree Equity Score Analyzer tool. The screenshot on the left is kind of the overview of Mesa. It shows the different block groups, and then you can zoom all the way into the parcel level. And I did zoom into the parcel that Stephen works out of, and look at that, it's only a 2% tree canopy. But it could support much higher than that. So there's lots of different ways you can use this tool. If anyone's interested in a real deep dive in it, I'm happy to do that. We can do that offline if you want to contact me. But just so you know, this tool is out there and you can use it to easily find out how much tree canopy you have on your property or properties. So those benefits that we talked about, getting to that 15%, really there's three different types of benefits. There's financial benefits, environmental benefits, and social benefits. But being that this is the Chamber of Commerce, I think I'm going to spend most of the time on the financial benefits. And let's talk about some of those. So there's a lot of different benefits that trees can bring to your property and the proper management of those trees. It can increase your property values. Trees enhance the aesthetic appeal of commercial properties, leading to higher property values. Well-landscaped properties with mature trees can see values up to or more than 15%. That's a very great investment. It can also attract more customers. So tree-lined streets and shaded areas create a more inviting environment for shoppers and customers, and this can lead to increased foot traffic and longer customer visits and ultimately boosting sales. And like Stephen said, having those trees there can extend your patio season, your shopping season, because folks like to shop at places that have trees. Can also save you money on your cooling bill. So having trees in the right spot can provide the right type of shade that can reduce your air conditioning costs. It can be pretty significant if you have the right trees in the right spaces around your property. And we all know it gets very, very hot and our air conditioning bills go up drastically here, especially in the summer. You can also enhance employee productivity and satisfaction. Happy employees make a better business, and a greener, more pleasant work environment can improve employee morale and productivity. There's a lot of studies that show that employees with access to natural views and green spaces report higher job satisfaction and better overall health. And keeping those employees is a lot cheaper than losing them and trying to fix that turnover and get new people in there. You can also reduce the stormwater damage costs. when we do get rains here, which is seeming less and less frequent, those floods can cause damage, and trees help absorb and filter that rainwater and reduce the runoff. So you can reduce those costs associated with water damage. They also help improve your business image and community relations. Businesses that invest in urban forestry and sustainability initiatives often enjoy a better public image, which can then lead to stronger community ties, customer loyalty, and really just a positive reputation. There's also potential for tax incentives and grants. Stephen would know this much better working with the city, but there's a lot of incentives available for businesses that engage in green practices, including tree planting, maintenance, turf removal, and conversion projects. But these can offset some of the costs involved in setting up your landscaping in the right way. They can also increase retail sales. So research has shown that customers are willing to pay more for goods and services in an area with an attractive landscaping and tree cover. This can directly increase retail sales for businesses. And then kind of lastly, another one, trees can provide windbreaks and shade, which prevent not only, as we talked about, can reduce your energy costs, but they can protect those buildings and paved areas from weather-related wear and tear, and again, can lower your overall maintenance and your repair costs over time. So some of the environmental benefits, I think most people know about these, but it's very much worth touching on because it does affect, not only your business and where it's at, but everyone that lives in the area. Trees improve air quality. They filter and absorb pollutants and filter out and absorb carbon dioxide. They also are helping to mitigate the effects of climate change. So again, just an overall good thing to have. Water quality. Trees, like I said, they filter and reduce that stormwater, but they intercept that rainfall on their leaves and branches and trunks and allow it to infiltrate the ground slower and better. So this not only reduces the possibility of flood damage like we talked about, but it significantly improves the quality of the water entering our systems. And by improving the soil structure and permeability, they also help recharge groundwater supplies, which is a huge thing here. Soil health, trees not only prevent erosion, using their roots, but they also really help the soil itself, which soil health here, as a certified tree nerd, it's something that I'm always looking at and is a big issue in Maricopa County is just the quality of our soils here, and trees can help that. All right, so lastly on the environmental benefits, biodiversity and habitat. So trees provide obviously habitat and food for a variety of wildlife and support local biodiversity. This can create a more vibrant and attractive environment around your business properties as well. Being able to see, birds and pollinators and squirrels and all the lovely creatures that come along with having trees in your area is a big benefit. Green spaces with diverse plantings can become like mini ecosystems that support pollinators like bees and butterflies, which are crucial to the overall health of the urban forest. And so lastly are the social benefits. So there's the mental health and the well-being aspect. Green spaces improve those not only for employees and customers, but for everyone that lives in the neighborhood. They provide recreational spaces and encourage outdoor activities. They contribute to a sense of community and aesthetic appeal, making common areas more pleasant. And then shade. So shade's one of those benefits that is, we've talked about in each. It's a financial benefit, it's an environmental benefit, it's a social benefit, kind of depending on what aspect you're viewing it from. We all know the feeling of jumping from mesquite shade to mesquite shade. And you think about your consumers speed walking from their car to your business across a hot, unshaded parking lot. How can you make that experience better for not only for them, but for others in the neighborhood? Well, you can create more shade through planting trees and maintaining the ones that are there. Now that we've talked about all these different benefits, the financial, environmental, and social benefits, it's important to know that these benefits aren't distributed equally among residents. And this is something that American Forest is really championing, and it's a big part of my job, is talking about this unequal distribution of these benefits. Historical practices like redlining and other discriminatory activities led to the disinvestment of Black, brown, and low-income communities in many ways, including green infrastructure. So to put it simply, if you are darker in complexion or lighter in the pocketbook, you probably have fewer trees in your community. This reality is called tree equity. So American Forest has developed a way to measure tree equity. We call it the tree equity score. You can go to treeequityscore.org to find more about that. But essentially the thing to know is it's a score from 0 to 100, 100 meaning that you have achieved tree equity. 0, the lower the score, the higher the priority for people like me and Steven to get trees in those communities. And I want you to look at, so there's 2 images here. The image on the left shows the overall tree equity scores of cities within Maricopa County. So the more orange a city is, the lower the score. The closer it is to dark green, the higher the score. So the kind of the 2 extremes are Tolson, which is the lowest tree equity score. It's very orange there. And then Paradise Valley, which is a score of 100 and has tons of tree canopy. The negative effects of this uneven distribution of tree canopy come in a lot of different forms, but here in Maricopa County, the biggest way is through heat disparity. This is shown in the picture on the right. So the area on the right is an area in northern Scottsdale, which is very affluent, has a ton of trees, and it is 15 degrees cooler than the average temperature of the county. I want you to remember this as we move to the next slide. So 15 degrees cooler up in northern Scottsdale. This next slide, so contrast that area in northern Scottsdale is 15 degrees cooler with this picture on the left that shows an area in Mesa that is predominantly black and brown and low income. It's 12.8 degrees hotter than the average. That's a nearly 28-degree difference between rich and poor areas. And the picture on the right shows the tree canopy distribution, which if you overlay that with the heat differences, it clearly shows trees' role in cooling our cities. So your business could be a champion in this movement and help provide cool sanctuary for folks in your area, which will help to drive positive public perception, increase patronage and average time spent there, along with all the other benefits that we mentioned. But there are a ton of different ways to help improve tree equity in our cities. And if you're interested about learning more about this and interacting and being a part of this, please contact me after the presentation and we can get into that and figure out how you can be a part of this. So I'm going to pass back to Steven now to talk about trees and how they can work around your business. I guess
Thanks, Jake.
Okay, good. All right.
And thanks everyone for sticking with us with that transfer. So now that we understand the importance of having trees in our community, we'll guide you in selecting the perfect tree for your property. We'll share visual examples after the slide, but feel free to reach out post-presentation with any tree-specific questions. We won't have time to cover all the characteristics of each tree. Before I dive in, I want to pull up the chat again. If anyone would like to put in maybe some trees they have on their property, I think that'd be interesting. Or maybe trees they'd like to have on their property. So I see ficus. Blake, Corey, James, you guys got any trees? Olive, okay. Yeah, great. Feel free to put more in. So the points on this slide are overarching themes to save you money and encourage customers to visit your business. We encourage to focus on native or desert adapted trees. They're water wise, cost effective, and better suited to our climate. So non-native trees often require more money to care for the tree and just more money in the long run. Second, plan ahead for future growth or consider the tree's placement. If planted in the right location, you know how a single trunk tree will grow versus one of those multi-trunk native trees. And you can anticipate how to balance that clear line of sight to your retail signage with a beautiful tree. In fact, if the right tree is planted in the right place at the start, the tree won't interfere with your signage and you won't have to prematurely remove it or overly care for it. Trees are a long-term investment, and we want you to stay in the green with your tree investment. I know the stock market's very volatile. Tree market's not very volatile. All trees need adequate soil volume. This prevents common issues like tree blowover. So if you rent, advocate to your property managers to increase the tree planting spaces with any new development opportunities when they present themselves. I like to encourage design as well that allow trees to be trees asphalt to be asphalt. The proper design will save you money instead of having to force trees into the wrong place and manage competing goals such as shade and cleanliness for your guests. Lastly, install and maintain drip irrigation lines to your trees. Across the valley, we are losing trees to the heat, drought, and improper watering. I suggest scheduling an annual inspection for your irrigation lines. That'll help conserve water, optimize tree health, ensure your systems functions correctly, and save you money in the long run. So we're gonna do a lightning round right now. Next slide, Jake. Some of our recommended trees. We'll do about 2 to 3 points per tree. And again, reach out if you have any other specific questions. So this is the ironwood. This tree is very good in front of your business. Pay attention to this photo and the next 3. They have a very, very clear line of sight. It's my favorite tree. I consider them the saguaro of trees. It's one of the most important and oldest plants in the Sonoran Desert. They stand up to the urban environment. I've seen cars hit ironwoods and the tree survives. They have thorns on them, so they do keep customers away. So it's just important to consider when you're placing it. Next slide, Jake. Thank you. This tree is the Southern Live Oak. When business owners describe to me their perfect tree for in front of their business, they are thinking about the Southern Live Oak. This desert adapted single trunk tree has an ideal shape and architecture for the urban environment. You'll see that very straight form, strong trunk, lush canopy, and across the US, oaks are resilient superheroes that continue to thrive. Next slide, Jake. This is the Malga. This has become a very popular choice in the Phoenix Valley. It's that tree right in the middle of the light rail. And they've become very popular in Phoenix due to its single trunk form and ease of care. They work well on streets. This is a good time to introduce my friend biodiversity. It's essential to consider the long-term health of our urban forest. While the Malga offers benefits, us relying solely on one species can be risky. I've seen Malgas pop up everywhere, so we want a diverse tree canopy, and that's crucial to protect against widespread pest or disease outbreaks. So if all Malgas get infected, we would lose a lot of trees. Kind of like a business, we want to have a diverse customer base. Next slide, Jake. The next 3 slides, these are those kind of wide trees that need space to grow horizontal. Too often I see us forcing these trees into tight spaces, such as right-of-ways or parking lot islands, only to be pruned up into an unsafe lollipop form. So pay attention to these photos as well and look at that tree shape. This is the blue Palo Verde. It's the state tree of Arizona. It's a unique bluish-green bark. It's just a very beautiful, resilient desert tree. It can survive sunny, hot Arizona summers and withstand temperatures down to 12 degrees Fahrenheit. And look at those beautiful flowers. Next slide, Jake. This is desert willow. This tree won't grow as tall as the Southern Live Oak, needs the horizontal space to thrive. And sometimes you can get a desert willow with a nice single trunk-like architecture, but they have a high drought and salt tolerance, survive with very little watering. While it might be seasonally messy with seed pods and flowers, those colors are worth it, and I believe it's no messier than your dog or cat. Their flowers attract hummingbirds, butterflies, other pollinators. It's one of those trees that when my friends from out of town visit, we get a coffee or a meal at a restaurant, they love to watch the hummingbirds jump from flower to flower. Next slide, Jake. This is the velvet mesquite. It's a Sonoran Desert native. Like many desert natives, it naturally grows as that shrub shape. But again, I wouldn't stay away from it. If you have more room on your property, this tree is ideal for our area. It fixes our soils with a nitrogen fixing bacteria. It improves that soil condition, especially if there's any growers or agriculture folks in this meeting. They prefer full sun and do very well in this natural habitat. It's been around for a while. Velvet mesquites are used for a variety of purposes. Notably, their wood is turned into charcoal and prized for delicious smoky barbecue. Seed pods are ground together and turned into flour, still used by the Tohono O'odham people. and it's becoming commercially viable. It's amazing what trees provide us. Next slide, Jake. And I'll finish my section. This is the Lysoloma. It's a fast-growing small tree, and it's ideal around built infrastructure because we can predict that size. That photo is what you get with the Lysoloma. The flowers are small, fluffy looking, and pale cream colored, and the leaves are soft and smooth to the touch.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. So there's often kind of a trade-off with native species. They do very well with low water and extreme heat, but they grow a little slower, and sometimes they're not the best for shade. So if you're looking for a species of tree that you can put around your patio to cool your sidewalks, around your, a lot of parking areas, things like that, a couple of really great options we're going to go through now. One of my favorites is a red push pistache. It's got a different cultivar of a Chinese pistache, but it does much better in our ecosystem. Real low water use, real high heat tolerance, and it's got these just beautiful, beautiful fall colors. You can see why it's called the red push pistache. Extremely popular, especially City of Scottsdale. If you go down Indian School Road, they just line it and on both sides of the street, and just in the fall, it's breathtaking, some of those colors. Another great choice is the Chinese elm. These do better in your areas that have, either around turf or things like that. I wouldn't necessarily put them along the streets just because some of that reflective heat can damage them. But I have a Chinese elm in my backyard that gets almost no irrigation and is just absolutely robust, provides a ton of shade to the backyard. And again, can do very well on low water and grow very large and have a lot of shade that come from it. And lastly, here is the chase tree. These really have these beautiful purple flowers that come off of them and these blooms. And they really attract hummingbirds and butterflies just so much. So like Stephen was saying, if you're out with folks, having a coffee, it's great to watch the hummingbirds and the butterflies go around these different blooms. So those are some of the options that work very well for shade. And a mix of both native and non-native is totally good and totally fine here. There is no native urban trees because our ecology in the city functions very differently than native environment. So don't be afraid to kind of think outside the box and use a non-native tree, as long as it's not invasive, which Stephen and I can help you with that distinction offline. So we've gone through the trees that you should plant. It is important for us to note at least some of the trees that you probably should not plant. Three of the biggest offenders that Stephen and I see a lot are the sisu, the ash, and pine trees. Sisu's on the far left there. It's native to India and does very well in the desert, but its roots regularly produce sprouts, and it really shouldn't be close to any sidewalks or buildings. The roots can lift cement or damage our structure's foundation. They get into a lot of issues with those roots. Ash trees, they don't tolerate the extreme heat very well. They're high water use, and they're very vulnerable to a lot of different diseases. And then pines. Pines don't belong in the desert. They need a ton of water. They don't tolerate extreme heat. You see a lot of pine trees around. Someone thought that was a great idea 50 years or so ago. And especially with the way things are getting more extreme in terms of heat, pines are just, they're not going to be around here. So don't waste your time or money planting pines. So, we talk a lot about these different, having trees at your property, but planting trees is fantastic, but really caring for the existing trees you have is maybe even more important because you can't replace time. So a tree that is mature, that's been there, is extremely, extremely valuable. So when trees are being planted at your property, there's a couple things you want to look for. You want to ensure that there's proper space for that tree to grow and thrive. You can see one of the pictures I took at a business. That tree is planted in what Stephen and I sometimes call tree coffins. That's my shoe pair for scale. That tree has no space to grow. Those roots have no space to thrive. And realistically, that tree is going to be dead very soon and probably topple over into that parking lot, which is a big liability issue. So you want to ensure there's proper space to the planting. When trees are planted, they're going to a lot of times come with a nursery stake. your landscaper or yourself, whoever's doing the planting, that nursery stake should be the first thing that comes out. And then you have 2 supporting stakes on the side that the tree is loosely connected to with some arbor ties. And we'll get into that a bit, but you want to remove that nursery stake very, very quickly right at the planting. Otherwise the tree will kind of grow around it and it'll kill the tree. You also want to make sure they're not planted too deep. A phrase I use a lot is plant them proud. So plant the tree up proud. You don't want to have it too deep. Trees have what's called a root flare, where you start to see the trunk kind of come down. That should be exposed and not covered with dirt or mulch, because that can cause a lot of issues. You also want to, as we talked about, having the supporting stakes with the wire or the arbor ties, you want to remove that after a year. Trees are a lot like people, you know, the stress of the winds kind of blow them around a little bit. They need that to be able to function and grow. That reactionary wood and be strong. And if you don't remove that wiring after a year, you'll run into a lot of issues, which I'll show you on a future slide here. You also want to give a tree time to develop. So in most cases, you don't want to start pruning a tree until after 2 years. You know, give it time to get settled, get it established, and then schedule pruning every 4 to 5 years. I can't tell you how often I talk with folks that they have their trees scheduled to be pruned every year. Unless there is a specific objective, you shouldn't be pruning your trees. Generally here, every 4 to 5 years is pretty good. And I'm going to tell you right now, a lot of times folks get kind of pressured into what's called monsoon pruning. So if any of you have landscaping contractors that work your property, they might have asked you that you need to do this monsoon pruning before the season. I'm going to tell you that is not a thing. It's a gimmick. A lot of times with what they call monsoon pruning, they'll take out a bunch of the canopy on the inside, and that actually makes the tree more wind prone and more liable to have big branches snap off. Trees are a lot like, you know, if you see the cars getting tested in those wind tunnels, the wind goes over them. Well, trees need that thick canopy for the wind to go over and around it. If you start taking out a bunch of holes in the canopy, the wind's going to go through it, and you're going to have a lot of problems. Also irrigation. So drip irrigation is the most efficient way that we have here. But you want to make sure those emitters are being moved out as your tree grows. They should never be up right against the root or right against the trunks. That'll cause all kinds of rot issues. And that's not where your tree wants water. It wants it farther out where the roots are spreading all the way to the edge of the canopy. So as your tree grows, those irrigation emitters should be moved out. So let's look at some of the things of what not to do. Unfortunately, the picture on the far left is my neighbor. They did just about every single thing wrong that you can do with a planting. You can see that bamboo stick with the green tape around it. That's the nursery stake. They didn't remove that. And if they leave that on there for any extended period of time, the tree's going to grow into that and it'll cause all kinds of problems and kill the tree. They planted it too deep. They have one sort of supporting stake there, but it's not really supporting. So, you know, example of what not to do. And then the pruning on the 2 pictures on the right-hand side. I'm not sure what the objective is there, but you might as well have just removed all those trees. They're all going to die. There's no reason to prune that heavy. So again, just make sure when you are pruning, you have an objective. The ISA standard used to be no more than 25% of the canopy removed at any time. They've now lowered that much to just take as much as is needed while still achieving the objective. Usually that's no more than 5 to 10% of the canopy. So in a lot of cases, lighter is better. And here's an example of why you need to remove the staking after a year. So this tree was staked fairly well. You can see the stakes on the sides. They had some wire holding the tree up, supporting it, but they didn't remove it for many, many years. And now the tree has fully grown into that wire. You can see the wire is like sticking straight out of the middle of the tree. So that wire was surrounding the tree. The tree grows out, and it overlaps that wire. And now that wire is literally strangling it from the inside. It's called girdling. So all those trees are going to die simply because they didn't take, 5 minutes to remove those stakes after a year. So some of the examples of just really how your trees could be, Stephen and I could give a whole hour presentation on just how to care for your trees, but these are some of the most egregious things that we see all the time. So something to look out for on your properties. So when you are hiring a contractor to work on your property, there's a couple of things you want to look for. How do you know if it's a good contractor or not? Well, first of all, do they carry credentials? There's a lot of different credentials out there, but around here, Smartscape is a very good one. And then, of course, they should have an ISA arborist on staff. But just because they have an arborist on staff, that arborist really should be the one out overseeing the work and making sure that it's done properly. So just ask the people that are, your contractors, like, do you have an ISA arborist on staff? How involved are they in the training of the guys that are going to be on our site? Are they properly planting and pruning? So if they're doing the type of things that we're talking about, planting it properly, only pruning what's needed and no more, they're not.
No. He's frozen.
My-
Oh, there you
We're back.
are.
Oh, great. I'm having connectivity issues. Wow. All the things are aligning here. I'm not sure where I cut out at.
Properly pruning.
Properly pruning. Right. So are they leaving stubs of the branches when they prune? The kind of the rule of thumb that the stub that they leave should not be more than what you could hang your hat on. So if it's any real amount of stub, they're not pruning properly. They're not bringing it back to where they should, to the branch bark collar. And again, are they pushing unnecessary work like monsoon pruning? You can also check your contracts to be ensured that they're being fulfilled. A lot of times I go to help folks and I look at their contracts, and things that are in their contract just aren't being done. So good to review that yearly to make sure things are being done. There's also a link here to some sample contract language that the City of Mesa supports. We'll send this out as a PDF, so you'll be able to click that. Also, I wanted to draw attention to Valley Leadership's Impact Makers Tree Equity Score Business Toolkit. You can follow the QR code to find that there, but if you search Valley Leadership Impact Makers and go to the Environmental Impact Maker group, you'll find this. Really great step-by-step guide for businesses on how to hire a contractor, what kind of grants are available in City of Mesa, all kinds of things that Stephen and I are talking about here that are in this handy toolkit. So I'm going to hand it back over to Stephen to talk about how we can all work together to achieve these goals.
Thanks, Jake. Yeah, and thanks for sticking with us. I'll wrap this up in about a minute. I'm not going to go over each of these, but now that you all love trees, here is what you can do. We're to work together and get to that million tree initiative goal. So of course, you can plant a new tree. If you have open space at your property, consider hiring a professional. If you're a homeowner, you can participate. SRP gives out free trees. If you're the Mesa Electric boundary, we give out shade trees, and it's on our Trees Are Cool website. One of the events are coming up. If you live in a neighborhood, in reality, just if you're interested in any of this, contact me and we can try to figure out something to get trees to you, to your neighborhood. We have different programs that are distributing trees at no cost or low cost. Next slide, Jake. We have a tree steward program going on. Jake is organizing or supporting that with the Arizona Sustainability Alliance. We're going to meet for one Saturday in October and one Saturday in November. You'll take what you just heard today and really become a neighborhood level expert on tree care. At the end of it, we'll plant 100 trees in Mesa. So if you're interested, all the info sessions are over, but you can email Jake or I after, and we can get you that information. There's going to be 3 years of this, so if you miss it this year, we'll be doing it next year. Next slide. Lastly, if you ever come across a public property issue in the City of Mesa, we have this CityLink website where you can report the issue, such as a downed tree. Maybe you see something that just doesn't look right with the tree in a park. Let us know. This is for potholes too and other things. But yeah, we appreciate the help. We can't be everywhere. And last slide, and I believe that's it. There's our contact information. I hope y'all reach out. I hope you enjoyed today's presentation, and thank you for attending. Thank you for sticking with us. Trish, thank you for having us. And yeah, we're open for any questions if you have any.
I
Thank
just wanted to
you,
say thank
Jake.
you, guys.